Hello, my name is Isaac Miller, and I'm here to discuss this very important subject: why millions now living think that Jehovah's Witnesses are a harmful culture. Now, would you not agree that someone that was a Jehovah's Witness for 19 years, that was a member of 6 different congregations, that was a regular pioneer and a ministerial servant, and someone whom declined being an elder twice, and whose family, the 90% of his family on his grandmother's side, whom of all Jehovah's Witnesses, would you not agree that this individual has been fully immersed in the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses? From experiences as a child, as a preteen, as a teenager, as a young adult, and someone who is now, I guess you would say, mid-adult. And a lot of people consider Jehovah's Witnesses to have a harmful culture, and I'm going to talk about that. However, if you are active Jehovah's Witness or a former member, I'm not going to do this in a way that you are accustomed to. I really love objectivity and the ability to take a step back and be fair. However, I start off with this illustration as we entertain this important subject of, are Jehovah's Witnesses a harmful culture? Now, I'm going to cover a lot of information, so this episode will be extended, but it is well worth the watch time. So feel free to go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, and share my channel while you're already here. Now, everyone has been to a restaurant before, and everyone has a favorite restaurant. So take time to think about your favorite restaurant. It probably wouldn't matter if some people gave it 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, or 1 star, and said a whole bunch of bad stuff about it. Why? Because you have something that you personally like about it. They may have 70 entrees on their menu, and maybe you only tried one of them, and that one is all you need. However, that doesn't take away from other people who are highlighting the other 79 entrees and saying that they're not good. Now, everyone may agree with you that that one entree that you are saying tastes good. They say, hey, that does taste good. But they're saying 1 out of 80 things is not a good ratio. However, they're not saying that this makes it all bad, but it's definitely more cons than pros. Now let's take the illustration a step further. Let's say that you had never eaten at the restaurant and you see all of these reviews, and someone tells you you can only look at the 5-star and the 4-star reviews, but they see thousands of 1-star reviews and you can't look at that. Would you not feel a little skeptical about that? Would it also influence you ever trying that restaurant? Now, you could still try it, but why can't you look at those negative reviews? Look at the positive and the negative and then make your decision. If the person only wants you to look at the negative ones, or the positive ones rather, or actually on both sides, it's not fair to only encourage someone to look at the negative reviews. Let that person make their own decision. And that's the premise that we're going to build on today. You see, it's one thing for someone to complain about not having good customer service or good food. It's another thing to discover that not only do they have bad customer service or bad food, but they also are putting poison in your food or chemicals that's making you addictive to the food, so you'll keep coming back. Would you not say that would be manipulative? So let's say that some of the reviews is not highlighting the taste of the food, or the customer service is trying to tell you, hey, we discovered that they're putting chemicals in the food that's making you addicted to it, which is why you keep coming back. You got to come back every single day. So that is unethical. So they're doing something that is not fully allowing you to make a wise decision or a decision where you're fully in control of. And this is what most people accuse Jehovah's Witnesses of. So we're going to highlight what makes something a harmful culture. Now, first of all, culture is everything that is involved with your social influence, your physical well-being, your spirituality, your emotional thought form, and everything that makes up where you live. Now, it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It's fair to state at this point that everything is conditioned, is it not? Even if it's right or even if it's wrong. So when people say love shouldn't have conditions, objectively speaking, that's not true. Everything has conditions. For example, if you're engaging in a relationship with your mom or dad, if your mom or dad started cussing you out, beating you side of the head for no reason, you're not going to tolerate this. So you do have conditions. As an example, if you're a wife and with your husband, or vice versa, if your husband said, I want to be homeless, I don't want to work anymore, you may love him, but those conditions will begin to change. Some people might say, hey, I'll be homeless with you. But what I'm simply saying is, if we want to be fair, everything has conditions, does it not? Now, each individual has the right to decide what conditions are deal breakers or what they will personally be a part of. But when you're not the one creating the conditions that's making a culture harmful, you don't even realize it, that's the problem. Well, you don't realize, just like at that restaurant, that people are putting chemicals in the food they didn't ask you permission to, that's making you like the entree more than what you should. Or perhaps you don't even like it because, again, they only have one good meal, 79 of them were bad. And they're saying you can't look at those reviews. So the first thing that we're going to talk about that most people have a problem with Jehovah's Witnesses is what happens when you decide to leave the group. You see, this is what makes something potentially destructive, is what happens when you leave. Now, if you're Jehovah's Witness, you know, and if you're being honest, all I have to do is type in disassociated people, removed people, marked people, bad associations, worldly people, and apostates, and I will see a list of articles of how to engage with these people. There is no honorable way to leave Jehovah's Witnesses. You see, when someone decides, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness, as an example, let's say that they disagree with doctrines or whatever reason, they just don't want to be one anymore. That person now, if they disassociate, they're going to be shunned by family and friends. That is a situation where you have free will, but you don't have free will because you have undue influence, meaning you have this social pressure that is not allowing you to make a decision where you really want to make it. Or some people will make this decision, but look at the consequences. They have to lose their family. They have to lose their friends. And this person may even say, I don't care if you're a Jehovah's Witness. I just don't want to be one anymore. We don't even have to talk about religion. But the religion tells its members, no, if they don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness, they're a bad association and they're apostate and all this other stuff, and do not have association with them. The Bible does not say that. Even when you quote the scripture at 2 John, if you read that whole chapter, it says, do not keep in company or have or eat with a man that does not acknowledge Jesus Christ in his resurrection. Not someone that says, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness or the governing body. That is not in that Bible. We just read 2 John chapter 1. It tells you, not just verses 9 through 12. When you say this teaching, that's where eisegetical stuff comes in. You read that, it's not talking about the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses. The teaching that was in the Bible thousands of years before Jehovah's Witnesses self-appointed themselves. But the scriptures tell you what it's talking about. It says someone that denies Jesus Christ and that he rose on the third day. I'm not denying Jesus Christ. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that he died for all mankind's sins, John 3:16. I believe that he's the only name under heaven by which one can be saved, Acts chapter 4 and verse 12. You have to accept that the Bible doesn't teach that. So my question is, it's a harmful culture when you try to leave. What happens? Look at the great cost that someone has to go through. My question to Jehovah's Witnesses would be, why does the person have to go through all of that when they just want to part ways amicably? That's why some people would consider it a harmful culture. Look what happens when you leave. Look at the cost. That's not in the Bible. It says this teaching. Now, why is an individual not allowed to do objective research? Simply go to jw.org and type in the search bar, misinformation. Watch that video on misinformation and see how it's subjective. Misinformation only comes from outside sources, but never from them. They even have videos of showing how people do research, saying you don't need to do research because we've already done the research for you. The Bible says make sure of all things. That's not making sure of all things. What if the brothers miss something? Or what if their research is misguided? Why are you telling me I can't do objective research when the Bible tells me I can? Why do members get in trouble for asking questions? So you can ask questions, but you can't question the answer that's given to you. Everyone that's a Jehovah's Witness knows you're not allowed to question things openly. You're not allowed to say in the middle of the congregation, I disagree with this. What if there's a teaching with the governing body, somebody raised their hand during the Watchtower study, and say, you know what, I don't think that they were appointed in 1919. What will happen to them? You don't have free will. There's consequences for doing that. You can't express your doubts openly. And even in private, if you say you disagree with something and you are adamant about sticking to that, you will be punished. In a helpful or a harmless culture, you are allowed to ask questions, are you not? If God himself allowed himself to be questioned, when you think about Abraham as an example, Abraham said, if I find 50 men, 45 men, is the Almighty not going to do what's right? And he kept questioning God till he got down to as low as 5 or 10. Did God say, don't question me, call him evil, wicked names? God patiently answered his questions. Now, which person do you think is more important, the governing body or Jehovah God? Why can Jehovah God be questioned, but not the governing body? That makes no sense. That's what the scriptures show. Jehovah God always allowed himself to be questioned. Abraham said, is the Almighty not going to do what is right? He's pretty much questioning God's motives. Abraham said, that's not right to destroy somebody if destroy a whole city, if you find one righteous man in there. Now, that is something to think about, is it not? So my question is, that's what people will ask. Millions of people have left Jehovah's Witnesses over the years. Why can't you express yourself freely? I spoke with someone the other day. I'm not going to reveal her name, but she's in her 60s. And she called me. I gave her my number. And she said that she still believes that it is God's organization, but she notices things that aren't acceptable. And she mentioned that you seem like a nice young man. I feel comfortable talking to you. She wanted to express herself about things she disagrees with. But she said, I can't do this at the congregation because I'll get in trouble. You see, that's cognitive dissonance. She can't express herself openly. She has to express herself to a former member because she knows if she mentioned this to current members and the elders, she would get in trouble because it's being critical. Critical analysis is not tolerated with Jehovah's Witnesses. Just type in independent thinking and critical thoughts and criticism and doubts. Watch how the organization encourages or discourages this. Just type it in the search box on the online library. Now, if you're not familiar with the JW app, where you can access the online library. If you're on the official website, scroll down at the bottom of the page. You're going to see Watchtower Online Library. Pull that up and just type in critical thinking, independent thinking, doubts, criticism, all of that. And type in apostates and see what information you see about that. You're going to see that you're not allowed to criticize or ask questions like that. You're going to also see that they discourage you from having independent groups where people will meet together and discuss biblical things. A small group, you can't even do that. You also see that you're not allowed to visit other groups, other churches. They call that Babylon the Great. So now you have this social environment where you can only mingle and have close ties with people that agree with you. Now we look at 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 14 through 18. What share does light have with darkness? They'll use that scripture. So what they're saying to you, people who are non-witnesses, you all are darkness. Let's keep it transparent. That is the teaching. Only Jehovah's Witnesses have light. Don't have a different image in public than you do in private. So what qualifies you to tell someone else that they're in darkness? What qualifies you to have the monopoly on all doctrines when a lot of your teachings are nowhere in the Bible? This is the real culture of Jehovah's Witnesses and why some people consider it destructive and harmful, because you're teaching a person to isolate his or herself from the world. They have fears and phobias of people that are non-witnesses, worldly people. So is that destructive or not? Now, there's good to give advice because some of the associations are bad, but is it because it's bad association because they're not a Jehovah's Witness, or is it bad association because this person is not a good person? And maybe they may not be a good person and become a good person later on in life. Where are the Christian qualities where you don't judge? Matthew 7, 1 through 5. So this person is now only socializing with Jehovah's Witnesses. So they're trained not to socialize with worldly people or become close to anyone else. So if they ever change their mind and decide to leave, they don't have a social network. Their social network will be only Jehovah's Witnesses. So most people will say that that's harmful. With the person that made this choice as a full thinking adult with having access to mingle with so-called worldly people, to read other information and see, is this my real decision? The person's mind, for example, if you take a sponge and let's say that I had some Fanta orange soda in a cup, milk in one cup, and water in one cup. If I only dip the sponge in a Fanta cup and squeeze it, the milk is not going to come out of the sponge. The water won't come out of the sponge. What I actually put in there is going to come out. Now, if I dipped it in the milk, the soda, and the water, all of it would come out. So what you consume, it could be good, it can be bad. But if what you consume is only from one source, that's the only thing that can come out of it. You can't think or analyze another way. So some people would say that this is information control. The person is not allowed to even see what something else is saying. If it's true, you'll be able to examine it, just like you got the Fanta, the milk, and the water. I'll be able to say, well, clearly, this is orange Fanta, because I'm allowed to look at the cup. For example, let's say that milk is covered up, that water is covered up, and a person is saying to me that that's not milk or water, but I can't see it. It's very simple. Let me just take the veil off the milk and I can see that it's milk or whatever. You're telling me I can't see it. So likewise, is this healthy? Why aren't Jehovah's Witnesses allowed to do objective research? Why are they only allowed to look at information published by Watchtower, Bible and Tract Society? That's a good question. People will say that this is harmful. And it's not until people do research that they will see that this is very problematic. The person is actually not thinking critically and analytically because they're not allowed to. Now, as an example, let's look at the social construct of auxiliary pioneering, and all of that. Now, all Jehovah's Witnesses know that whenever you become a regular pioneer, they're going to make an announcement. Also, when you become an auxiliary pioneer, they make announcements, and then they clap, and everybody claps. And you also encourage to increase your hours when the circuit overseer comes. Now, everyone knows that if you have the circumstances and you're not pioneering, people will start to look at you funny, or at least auxiliary pioneering. So you have this pressure. And then if you stop pioneering, they're going to get in front of everyone and announce that such and such is no longer a pioneer. That's undue influence in a way, because why do we have to do all of this public stuff? And also, why don't you tell people that this person stepped down from being a pioneer or an elder? People automatically assume that you did something wrong because that is the culture. That's not normal. It's public shaming, public reproof, private reproof. For the public that doesn't know, Jehovah's Witnesses have pretty much 4 main types of discipline. Like a marking talk, where they usually do it during public needs. And they probably don't mark you anymore. They leave that up to the individual members. Where they remove you from the congregation, meaning that you cut off and shun. Public reproof, meaning they're going to get there and say such and such has been publicly reproved. Or private reproof, where they're going to take your privileges away. For example, if you're a male, you can't pass out the microphones. You can't do literature counter. You're not going to be an attendant. You won't read the watchtower. You won't be able to do certain things. For a female, that might be cleaning up the Kingdom Hall, commenting, and for a male as well, or pioneering. So people are going to know this person hasn't been doing these assignments. They're going to feel like, hey, did they do something wrong? So all of that impacts on one's emotions and how they view themselves. And this is why people consider this to be a destructive culture, because Jesus died for all sins. If he did it and he made way for you to repent in prayer, why do we need all these man-made rules that's nowhere in the Bible? Where is public reproof in the Bible? Can you show me that arrangement? Where is private reproof in the Bible? Can you show me that arrangement? Now, there is some evidence for marking, and there's also evidence for removing people from the congregation, but not in the context and the way that you're doing it. People should be allowed to leave the religion because the Bible does not speak about any of that. You have to be a Jehovah's Witness. So when you think about having an absolute leader as well, now Jehovah's Witnesses have a governing body. So some people will talk about a personality culture, an ideological culture, or a religious culture. You can have a political culture. See, what makes it destructive is a lack of freedom, the control. Jehovah's Witnesses have to accept that the governing body is who they say they are, and the faith from the street slave. They can't challenge that. That is that not authoritarian and absolute power? It is. John 3:16 is simple. For God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten son, that everyone who believes in him may not die but have everlasting life. Not that he gave the governing body. Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. To whom shall we go? John 6:68. Not where, to whom. It never pointed to man. Jeremiah 17:5 says, cursed are you if you put your trust in man. He said, a curse will come over you. So how can I follow the Bible and follow those standards? That's absolute leadership. You have to believe in them as a Jehovah's Witness. You can't challenge that. That is a destructive culture based on many standards. And it puts you in a mind frame of other groups like the 2x2s, Heaven's Gate, David Koresh, Mormons, so many other groups where you have to accept their leadership. Other than that, you're kicked out. So this is why some people consider it to be a harmful culture. Jehovah's Witnesses can only marry other Jehovah's Witnesses. They'll say marry only in the Lord, according to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Now, what most people don't realize, did marry only in the Lord mean another Jehovah's Witness or someone that believes in God and Jesus Christ? Now, to say that it means only a Jehovah's Witness, it does not say that in the Bible. You have people being put in a situation where Jehovah's Witnesses only have 8 million members, maybe close to 9 million, allegedly, and there's way more men or way more women rather than men. So a lot of women will never get married. It's not enough. And a lot of them maybe 50 years ago thought they would be in a new system and did get married. And they were thinking that, well, I'll just do that in a new system and not have kids. But now they're 75 years old. Or you may have people that are married, people 20, 30 years older than them, and they're thinking it doesn't matter because I'm going to be young in a new system. And then 50 years go by, this person's mate has died, and then even then they teach you that you may not even be able to be married to that person again, or you can't. They've changed that teaching several times. For when somebody dies, that in the new system, you might not be able to remarry them. You have people that don't know if they can remarry their mate. So I know elders and just sisters in general that they love their mate, but they didn't want to get remarried in this system because they didn't want to possibly ruin the chances of being able to be with their spouse again, but also not knowing if they could because they didn't know if you can marry your spouse again, because those what the teachings would say. Just simply do research on that. You will see how they constantly change that. Am I able to remarry my spouse that has passed away in this life in the new system? So people also think about the damage that does to someone not knowing if you can be with the person again, or not knowing if I get married, does that end it all? So some people might decide I'm going to go ahead and get married because I can't be with my spouse in a new system, or I don't even know if I can. Then some people just wait, and they're waiting and die, and that's it. Or is it? Some people would say. So look at the decision making that it causes people to make. For example, people are discouraged from going to school. Now, the organization has lightened up on that, but just pull up articles on higher education, look at the full history of how they felt about higher education. Think about how that impacts people's career. Look at the economy where you live. The reality is you almost need an education to make a living or have a decent paying job. So when somebody decides not to invest in their 401k or their IRA or get some type of education, and now they can't compete in the job market, does that not negatively impact people's careers? Yes, seek first the kingdom and all things will be added to you. But a part of seeking first the kingdom is setting yourself up for success by using your brain. So you have to remember that God says you reap what you sow. So they can be good or bad, and we all make mistakes. However, a mistake that somebody else is giving you is not a fair mistake, meaning I wouldn't make this mistake if my dietitian, as an example, whom I trust, this person I'm thinking has all his education, they told me to eat this way, and I followed the instruction, but actually ended up being wrong, and it caused me harm. So likewise, trusting that the governing body is being led by God, and people decide not to go to school, but then 60 years later, they're still here, and now they have a harder lifestyle because of that decision. People would say that's a destructive culture, and that causes harm, does it not? So why is higher education discouraged? Those are good questions to ask. So you have people who are saying that they're going to turn you away from God. Talk to people whom have actually went to college. Was that their experience? Or the professors hunting them down? Don't believe in God anymore. Is that what really happened? Or do people learn how to think better while they're in school? Why is higher education discouraged? Why? It impacts people's lives. Will the governing body pay for your bills? Will the elders pay for your bills? Who's going to take care of you? That's good questions to ask. Also, we have this unique language to a culture. For example, does the outside world understand what the faithful and discreet slave mean? Do they understand the governing body? Do they understand what they mean by the CO, or circuit overseer, or district overseer, which they don't have anymore, circular assemblies, regional conventions, they're constantly changing the names, the society they used to call themselves, the Christian congregation, anointed, the great crowd, all these terminologies that's only within that group. The outside members know what that means. See, when you have language that's unique to your group, you're creating a culture that only you understand. It gives you this feeling of connectedness. So do they have what we would call a vast loaded language within their group that does change how you think? And then it's kind of like speaking a totally different language. If let's say you only speak English and someone speaks to you in Spanish, they might be saying something that could resonate, but you don't understand it. So it can't hit your heart. So likewise, if you go out and start talking about governing body and all this other stuff to people that don't understand what that means, it impacts you. But if you go to your group and they say, oh, the faithful slave, or the slave says this, you get exactly what that says. That creates a feeling of connectedness, even if it's not logical or makes objective sense. So that's important of having language. Language does impact how you feel. So why is a different form of language used for the public, but that's not used privately? Why is the leadership referred to as Jesus Christ publicly, but privately the leadership is the governing body has decided, with the guise of saying that Jesus Christ is spearheading it? But if Jesus Christ is a true leader, then that means that Jesus Christ is giving you incorrect information every time you have new light. You have to think about that. When you think about this image of how to treat former members, ask, if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, ask, how do you treat former members? Why is it that a person that simply doesn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore, they got baptized at a young age or whatever age, why can't they just leave? They're going to share with you 2 John. You're going to say, well, this says nothing in the scripture about if you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness, that means you're supposed to shun the person. This teaching, what teaching? It tells you, but resurrection, that you believe in, that Jesus Christ was resurrected and rose on the third day. It says nothing about if you don't believe in the governing body, you don't believe there was a point in 1919, you don't believe that Jesus Christ looked all over the world, examined them and did an inspection. There's nowhere in the Bible. You don't believe, it says none of that. So you ask the person, where does it say in the Bible that if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you're an apostate, you've left God? Where does it say that in the Bible? It says that only in your literature. So why do you create fears of the outside world? Why do you demonize former members? Ask them that. Don't hold them accountable to this. This is what they teach. So, is that not destroying families? Ad hominems. Look that word up. What is an ad hominem? Look at this mystical manipulation. What is mystical manipulation? I'm going to leave that for you to research yourself. Whenever you see experiences that are given to you, such and such found an article and came into the organization years later, can you verify that? Did they give you their names? Why didn't they give you their names? When they give you quotes, look up the quotes. Did someone create a situation that's not really how it happened? As an example, when you study when Russia banned Jehovah's Witnesses, they also banned other religions. You have to be fair and realize that Russia just didn't ban Jehovah's Witnesses, they banned other religions. See, mystical manipulation would be making you think that only Jehovah's Witnesses were banned, but that's not true. So other religions could say they were being persecuted too. Also, what would be the point of doing a letter writing campaign where millions of letters were sent if this is supposed to fulfill Bible prophecy? So as an example, look at the events that happened before Russia banned. Were letters being written to Russia about governments? Look into that a little bit more. So if I upset a government and then the government comes after me, then I say, well, this is fulfilling Bible prophecy. I planned that. See, mystical manipulation is events that you think that happen organically, but actually was planned. And also, why try to stop Bible prophecy? If Babylon the Great is supposed to, or the government's supposed to come after you, which they're supposed to get rid of Babylon the Great first, not you, why would you try to stop it? If you're not this, the Bible doesn't say this, but Jehovah's Witnesses believe that the Great Tribulation will break out and that Gog of Magog is going to come after all religions, and they're going to ban all religions and then come after Jehovah's Witnesses. But what Jehovah's Witnesses don't realize is they're being banned first. And all these other religions are not being banned. Or some of them are. But it's not how you said it's supposed to happen. So you have to think about why are you fighting to reinstate your status if this is supposed to happen. As Jesus said, he did certain things in Bible prophecy that he said it has to happen that way. So likewise with you, you said it has to happen that way, but then you're trying to stop it. When you think about behavior of Jehovah's Witnesses have to put on a certain image in front of other people, or some people will call this love bombing. When someone comes to the congregation, if they don't keep attending, are they going to still be shown love? If someone comes and they stop and they don't want to accept the Bible study, will Jehovah's Witnesses continue to check on this person? What does the term love bombing mean? If someone says, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness, I'm just going to come and that's it, will you hang out with that person? Also, is a thought reform program going on? As an example, in Acts chapter 8, when the Ethiopian eunuch was reading, the Bible says, do you actually know what you're reading? When Philip came, he says, no. And then he says, what? And then it was explained to him. And he said, what prevents me from getting baptized? And he got baptized. When John the Baptist baptized people, they just got baptized. They repented of their sins. When Jesus got baptized, he just got baptized. There is nowhere in the Bible where you find how Jehovah's Witnesses do it, where you have to attend all the meetings. You have to get on the CLM, the Christian Life and Ministry School meeting. You have to comment. You have to start going out in field service at some point. You have to complete the book, the Live Forever book. And then you have to meet with 3 elders and go over. Now they keep decreasing these questions. At one point it was almost 200 questions, but now it's under 100. But you still have to meet with 1 elder and go over some questions. A second elder go over some questions, and a third elder go over some questions. And then the 3 will meet together and decide if you need to get baptized. And one of those questions is you have to believe that the governing body is appointed by God. And if you don't believe that, you can't get baptized. Also, when the 2 questions that you're asked, you're dedicating yourself to God's spirit-directed organization. You have to say yes to that. Where does it say that in the Bible? Why do you have a program? None of that is in the Bible. People's lives on the line. So ask Jehovah's Witnesses, why is this a part of your culture? Can you show me in the Bible where it says you have to go out in field service, you have to become an unbaptized publisher for a while? Show me where it says that in the Bible. It's a good question. I saw your questions to get baptized. Show me where it talks about you have to meet with 3 elders in the Bible. And then 1 is going to do a set of questions. Can you show me that in the Bible? Show me where it says you have to get on a CLM and start giving public talks, or not public talks, but give talks and do demonstrations as a part of showing spiritual progress. Show me where it says you have to comment. Show me where it says you have to attend the meetings regularly. All of this as a qualification for baptism. In the Bible, people just got baptized. It's very simple. So you have to accept as a Jehovah's Witness that you have a baptism format that's nowhere in the Bible. So someone can make the accurate observation that is a thought reform program, getting you acclimated to a culture, slowly doing it to you where you don't even realize what's going on. Why is it done that way? Have you not gone beyond what's written? That process is not in the Bible. And then keep this in mind, Jehovah's Witnesses used to teach that the end was imminent regarding you had to be baptized in order to be saved. So if that's the case, if people just got baptized, the world is coming to an end at any moment, this person can get destroyed trying to do this whole program of coming to all the meetings, getting on the theocratic ministry at the time, the CLM, trying to comment at every meeting with the elders, going out on field service, doing all these activities. Like, all of that is problematic in a lot of ways. Another thing that people would say is a lack of financial transparency. Now, this is where it gets a little bit kind of confusing. At the local level, Jehovah's Witnesses will know exactly how the funds are spent at their local kingdom hall. And they will make announcements during the conventions and assemblies about the donations. However, Jehovah's Witnesses, you never get a yearly report of how the governing body spends their money. How much money was made? You don't see any of that. See, the lack of transparency is done on a local level. But are you told exactly how much money? You know how simple it would be to send out a report to everybody via email or through an app that the funds, this congregation had this amount of funds. We sent this amount of money over here. We deposited. You don't have that financial transparency. You don't know exactly how much the circuit overseers are getting paid. They do receive payments. People at Bethel, those are your donations. All those people receive money. If you're at Bethel, they get money. You don't know. They don't tell you how much each person gets, how much money is spent on plane flights when they come in to visit, on their car. You don't get any of that. How much money they're spending toward the relief work for this or whatever. You don't know about any of that. How much money they get from the government by being registered as a religious organization. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society receives money from each government where they're in, which is one of the reasons why they're battling with Norway to get money back. Look it up. Why don't they tell you that, how much money they receive from the government? And that money will be coming from Satan the devil, because this is his world, is it not? That's what you teach. And why are you going to court to get money back from Satan's world? So you have to analyze those things. And also the guilt tripping, the public shaming, the name calling. People will say all of this is a part of a destructive culture or a harmful culture. Now, this is on the outside looking in. Again, no one will purchase a car if they tell you couldn't look under the hood. No one will purchase a home if you couldn't do a home inspection. No one will hire someone if you can't do a background check on them. You can't do a background check on the organization. They give you the information. They say, hey, here's the information to do a background check. That's not how you do a background check. If I find out that there's 40 other things on you and you saying I can't look at that, this is the one thing I want you to look at. That's information control. Why? You're giving me what to look at. It's like doing a home inspection. And let's say it's a 5-bedroom. You say, go look at this 1 bedroom, but you can't look at the other 4. Why can't I? Or I go to purchase a car. You say you can look at the tires. You can look in the back seat, but you can't pop the hood. If I'm making this investment, you can't tell me what I can't do. But see, a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses make the mistake, and most members are born in, so they don't really know how to do this, of joining without asking the right questions. You see, most people ask the wrong questions to Jehovah's Witnesses because they teach well regarding things on morality. But most people don't know to ask you where do you get this appointment from in 1919? What's your stance on blood transfusions? Most people don't ask any of those questions because Jehovah's Witnesses direct the narratives. They don't ask you about Joseph Rutherford, his history, Beth Serene. What was that? That how he was anticipating Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob returning, and he built a house for them. The full history. Why do you guys get rid of your old literature? Why can't people read it? Why do you consider people apostates that read literature that you publish? You see, most people don't ask the right questions. And they don't know about these things until they're in the culture. Now they're trapped through baptism. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses have some good things about their culture. They have this setup where you can go all over the world. And as long as you're a Jehovah's Witness and they say that you're in good standing, they will take you in their homes. And they will look out for you. But you have to still, it's still conditional. Everything about being a Jehovah's Witness is based on a condition. You're not going to get it if you don't meet certain conditions. And my question to you, is that acceptable or is it not? So when you think about looking at reviews for a restaurant, again, there's levels to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-star reviews. Why can't I look at the 1 and the 2-star reviews? If you have 80 entrees and only 1 is popular, but other 79 are bad, that's not a good ratio. Do I only like the restaurant for this one thing? Look at the totality of the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses, not just one aspect of being able to go all over the world where people greet you only if you agree, but look at what happens when you disagree. Look at how people are treated if they don't do certain things, if they don't comment regularly, if they don't make an appearance to go out in service once a week, as an example. What is the culture then? How are you treated? It's performance-based. So millions now living consider Jehovah's Witnesses to be a harmful culture. And this is just a few things. So I encourage you to do research on mind control. I encourage you to look up an expert by the name of Rick Allen Ross. I encourage you to look up an expert by the name of Stephen Hassan. I encourage you to look up mind control groups. I encourage you to study the signs of indoctrination. I encourage you to study the signs of something that's called a BITE model, which is behavioral control, thought control, behavioral control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. And see if you're in a group that is guilty of the BITE model. Research what that is. And do it objectively. And ask yourself, is this freedom? Ask yourself, am I under undue influence in that way? And this is thoroughly examine the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses while being honest about it, and pray to God. Ask for His Holy Spirit after you do this. And ask God, is this something that you would do? And also, the wisdom of this world, this foolishness with God. I can dictate to you what the wisdom of the world is. What is the wisdom of the world? That's vague. So they tell you what that means. But what if their wisdom is also of the world that is meant to keep you in a certain program? So trust what God has put into you. Jeremiah 17:9 says the heart is treacherous and desperate, who can know it? Obviously, the governing body is putting trust in themselves. Are they not also guilty of this? So you can't trust yourself and your own thinking that God has given you, but you have to trust theirs. Are they not imperfect? They have no evidence of being appointed. It's just self-appointed. Do not lean up on your own understanding, the Bible says. Whose understanding did the governing body lean up on every time they get something wrong? Just look at the Beliefs Clarified page. They didn't lean up on Jesus or Jehovah's understanding. It's not logical to think that they leaned up on Jehovah's understanding and still got something wrong. That means that they were leaning up on their own understanding. They were trusting in their own heart. Your intuition is real. So if it tells you something is off, You should believe it. Now, is it perfect all the time? No. We all make mistakes. So analyze those things and think about it. And as you do this, ask yourself, is Jehovah's Witnesses, are they a harmful culture? And see what former members are saying. And see what people that are not members. And you'll see that millions of people consider them to be a harmful culture. And that's something for you to ask. My next episode will cover predictions that I have for Jehovah's Witnesses over the next 5 to 10 years. So have a great weekend. It's been a pleasure. And again, please like, subscribe, comment, and share my channel. And also share your thoughts on whether or not Jehovah's Witnesses are a destructive culture. Put things in the comment section so people can see. Share your personal experiences and also share the experiences of experts. If you are a current member, share your positive experience and your negative ones or whatever it is. Let's really talk about this factor and the impact that it has on families with shunning and all of this different stuff. And let's have a real live discussion about it. So take care. It's been a pleasure.